half your housing starts are rentals in all of Canada. Half of them are rentals. And here's the chart separating them for you. When you look over here, you have the most amount of rental starts, over 80,000. That's a lot. Then when you factor in that the fact that condo starts are actually coming down, but it is still very, very high right now, over 70,000. So that's already at your 160,000. And where are your single family starts? They're right here, 60,000. What does the average Toronto person want to buy? What is the Canadian dream, the white picket fence? It's a single family home. Do you know what we're building a lot of right now? Condos and rentals, which generally are high-rise apartment buildings. If you're looking to enter the Toronto real estate housing market, whether you're a first-time home buyer or you're trying to move up into a freehold property right now, it doesn't matter who you vote, the Liberals or the Conservatives. Both their housing platforms are more or less the same, and it doesn't matter who you vote for if housing is your biggest concern in this upcoming election next week. I'm reviewing both their housing platforms, go through what may happen if they are elected, and sneak peek, and it's not going to really matter, and where the data is telling me where things are headed, which is more rentals. All of this talk about housing starts, it's gearing towards more rentals. So make sure you stay tuned to understand this housing platform for both the Conservative and the Liberals and how it may impact you in your housing search. My name is Zen, and if you enjoy my number crunching and data-driven real estate updates, be sure to like and subscribe.
Promises to make housing more affordable are coming from all the main party leaders in this election.
We will build our way out of the housing crisis.
A great life in a beautiful home on a safe street.
We want to build homes that you can actually afford.
Both Liberal leader Mark Carney and Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre are talking about eliminating the GST on some new home purchases, but their promises are not identical. So the Conservative plan would scrap the 5% GST for anyone buying a newly built home under $1.3 million. The Liberal plan scraps the GST just for first-time buyers on new homes under $1 million.
So your big difference when kind of looking at both of these platforms, realistically, it's just two things over here. One, the Conservatives have it for all buyers, which include investors, and your Liberals are just for first-time home buyers. Here's my kind of like feedback for both of them. Yes, the Conservative side are helping investors by helping them invest more with kind of this removal of the 5% or HST. However, you kind of need the investors to build more homes because most people aren't going to be buying their first home as a pre-construction as a first-time home buyer, especially if it's going to be under $1 million, you can see over here, which generally precludes you from any freehold home unless you're outside of the Greater Toronto area. And the $1.3 million Conservative side, yeah, you can maybe catch some freehold home in the GTA, but one of the problems with that is now the investors can also get on top of that as well. And when I was referencing why this doesn't make any difference is you can see in front of me right now is the chart of new home sales. The top part over here are single family homes. So this is your freehold home, your townhomes, your detached, and your semis. And you can effectively see here that we're not really doing so hot right now. Really not that hot. It's much better than the condos, which I'll get into shortly, but 160 sales in the month of December really isn't that great. It's the same as when you have it in, say, your 2023, 2022 was not great, but then your hot years of 2021 and 2020 were wonderful, but it's still well below the 10-year average. So this is to show you that not a lot of people are buying in this segment. And then when we talk about condos, it's even worse. We're like at the historic lows, which I've been talking about in the last few videos. Removing 5% from the top line cost of these homes isn't going to make them any more affordable. That's why I really don't think it's going to make any difference. Now, this chart here is talking about the benchmark price of the new build homes. For specific for condos, you can see over here, it's over 1 million. So now we don't know how this cap is going to work. Is it over it? Is it a sliding scale? We don't know. But if your benchmark price for condos is over $1 million in Toronto, does it really make a difference for the HST removal? Not really. And then we look at your freehold, it's 1.5. It's even over the Conservatives' 1.3 estimate, 1.3 amount. So it doesn't really make any difference in the Toronto space, let alone the fact that no one's buying them and they're over the budget anyways of what they're proposing. So those big headline things both parties are talking about is rather irrelevant. You can see in this chart that the condo sales have been abysmal and the condo starts will follow shortly after. So I can foresee that the condo starts are going to come plummeting down. So this is more to show you that what difference does it make if you remove HST on new build products if no one's buying these things anyways, right? So as a talking point for immediate relief for potential home buyers, it's not going to do anything. Now, this is a chart showing specifically in Ontario single family homes. So these are your freeholds, semis, and towns. And you can see that the permits, which is basically what you need to build these homes, are coming down. In all of Ontario in 2024, we had about 17,000 permits for new homes. This includes stuff that may have been sold during the pandemic when things were booming. So it's only going to continue going down. And when you look at Toronto as a whole, you can see what we are building. And you're going to see why in the beginning of the video I said a lot of these policies may be gearing up for a lot of homes to be built, but I don't think they're going to be the homes that people want to actually buy. So if you look over here in 2025, you can see that the condo construction is coming down right now. And that's because we're not having many sales. And there's still a bulk of stuff from when we sold in the last 5 years that do have to complete. And you can see over here, the orange line, the rentals are going up. And this is a combination of the MLI Select program, which is basically Canada giving extra cheap loans to a lot of builders so they can build purpose-built rentals. And this goes from 5 units all the way up to like a whole apartment building with 400 units, which are generally held by pensions. And then you can see over here that the single family starts, which was the last chart I showed you, it is right here. It's super anemic, right? If you kind of look at the last chart I had, we were at like 17,000. This is where 17,000 is right now when you cross the board. We mostly have condos that are under construction and rentals are increasing right now in Toronto. Thinking about buying a home, but not sure where to start or what's even a good deal? Just hit the link in the description below and tell me what you're looking at and I'll send you real-time feedback. No bots, no BS, just sharp insights to help you outsmart the competition.
Over the past 10 years, the Toronto Region Real Estate Board has reported an average of roughly 90,000 resale homes sold annually. Over the same time period, the region has seen on average roughly 32,000 new homes sold each year. That means new homes account for only about 1/4 of housing sales in the GTA. The Liberals now want to go even further. They're promising to create a new Crown corporation, which they call
Build Canada Homes.
It would provide $25 billion in loans to the builders of prefabricated homes, $6 billion in direct spending on affordable housing, and another $4 billion in low-cost loans for affordable housing projects. Poilievre's Conservatives dismiss Carney's plan as more liberal bureaucracy. His party would instead sell off 6,000 federal buildings and thousands of acres of federal land to developers of both market and non-market housing.
So the challenge with all of this politic talk is that we don't know where they're going to ultimately have the money land, whether you're as a liberal lending the money out or as a conservative, you are, selling the land to builders and at what price, we don't know. This is all talking point. But here's kind of where we stand right now, Canada as a whole. You can see our total housing starts are around 240,000. At the peak of after the pandemic, when we were selling a lot of new homes, we were around, call it 285. So for anyone to say that we need to double housing starts or we can double housing starts, know that we have never surpassed 300,000 homes in all of Canada per year, which is less than the amount of permanent residents that we're letting into Canada. So just keep that in mind. And when we say housing starts, this isn't the home that you and I want to buy, call it your detached home in Toronto. This includes apartment rentals, which is considered a dwelling. Your so-called 400 square feet bachelors is also considered a dwelling. Your garden suites are also considered a dwelling. So it's not that we're going to be building more homes that you want to buy, call it your detached home. It's that we're just building more units, period. And you can see in this chart here, which is as a percentage change in the last few years, you can see a lot of properties started going under construction after they were sold in the pandemic. But now that economy is not great, there's a lot of headlines talking about how bad the pre-construction new home sales are. You can see we are slowly declining really, really badly. And I see that we're probably going to stay there for a little bit. And the only segment of the housing construction that actually isn't declining right now is the rental side, which actually makes up for a lot of the reason why it's not as bad over here. Now, if I take out the rentals from the last chart, you can see that the housing starts decreases quite a bit. You can see that we were at 280,000. I want you to look at the top number in this chart right now. It's 180. That means right now when we remove rentals, the starts that we're experiencing are actually going down. And in all of Canada, we have 120 housing starts that are not rentals. So in this non-rental side, it also includes condos that are very small as well. All of Canada. Remember this chart I showed you earlier? If your total housing starts was 240 and your total housing starts not counting rentals is 120, that means half your housing starts are rentals in all of Canada. Half of them are rentals. And here's the chart separating them for you. When you look over here, you have the most amount of rental starts, over 80,000. That's a lot. Then when you factor in that the fact that condo starts are actually coming down, but it is still very, very high right now, over 70,000. So that's already at your 160,000. And where are your single family starts? They're right here, 60,000. What does the average Toronto person want to buy? What is the Canadian dream, the white picket fence? It's a single family home. Do you know what we're building a lot of right now? Condos and rentals, which generally are high-rise apartment buildings. Now here's a chart showing you the months of inventory for single family homes in Toronto. And yes, the market is very slow right now, but I purposely pulled these December numbers because December numbers were actually ramping up before we had this crazy tariff talk. And do you see right now? We're at about 4 months of inventory, which is still a very, very weak seller's market. It's not a buyer's market. It's not a balanced market. It's a very weak seller's market, meaning that prices should still increase. And the reason it's in a weak seller's market, despite all the craziness, is the fact that people want to buy these single family homes. They are the most sought after type of real estate in Toronto right now. All the other stuff is what's not doing very well. Hey, it's me interrupting myself. Ready to make a move? Just one free call, no hassle, but decades of experience to work for you. Now this here is a map of Southern Ontario. We call it generally the Golden Horseshoe. If anyone's unfamiliar, the horseshoe kind of looks like this. Kind of looks like a horseshoe if you ask me. Now, this is a Greenbelt map. And if you guys remember, there's all this talks about how we cannot build on the Greenbelt. And you can see over here, the protected countryside. So all of this stuff that I have over here is protected countryside. And keep in mind, this map is from 2017. I really do wish they have a more updated Greenbelt map, but they unfortunately do not. And all these little yellow blocks over here, and I've talked about this before, are the only pieces of land that are available to build on right now. And the reason why I'm slowly pointing out all of these little yellow blocks is these are only your pockets of land where you can actually build freehold homes in like a subdivision style that people generally want without doing an infill, meaning assembling a bunch of homes and then building it. You can easily build apartments, like call it condo high rises or apartment rental high rises, by knocking down large structures in the city. But to build like subdivision style homes where you have a backyard, these little yellow dots are the only pockets that are available right now. And that's why the prices are so high. The cost of land is so high, and that there's still a lot of people trying to buy these homes. So if I go through with you, you can generally see you got some stuff around Clarington. This is like Oshawa. This is like Whitby. This is Pickering. This is the north side of Markham. There are some homes over here, which is around the Oak Ridges Moraine in Richmond Hill. And there's some spots left. Over here, now you're kind of north of Vaughan. This is the 400 over here. So this is Maple. This is north of Valour. You got some stuff on Peel side, so this is your Brampton. You have some stuff north side of Milton, which is the northern side of Milton. You can see Milton is this giant block here, and we're building around that. And then you got other stuff behind the Hamilton Mountain. Do you see any yellow blocks in the city of Toronto? No. And that is the problem why Toronto detached homes are going to hold their value, because they just don't build that type of home anymore. And then when you even go into the more popular areas, call it Scarborough, Markham, Richmond Hill, Vaughan, Mississauga, it's the same thing. There's no land to build. This is why single family homes are very, very sought after.
So, how do all of these promises to speed up the pace of home construction mesh with the reality of the market right now? The pace of building new homes in Ontario sped up after COVID hit, but has since slowed down. And 2024 was the worst year for new home sales in the GTA since 1990.
So this is a snippet from Urban Nation's latest research a few weeks ago. I'm just going to show you the important part. Since 2024, 28 pre-construction projects, about 5,800 units were either put on hold, canceled, put in receivership, and here's the key thing, convert it into purpose-built rental. And the reason why I highlight this is the economics of creating condos don't make sense anymore because your input costs, your construction, your soft costs, your taxes, all that stuff is too high. Even if you go with the conservative side where you sell land back, that removes 10 to 30% of the costs. Even if you remove some of the taxes, that removes 5% of the cost. It's still too high. And you can see over here, 4 projects, about 1,000 units were converted into purpose-built rentals already because economically it makes sense because the government is giving them very low-cost loans to build these things. And here's kind of where we add more fuel to fire, where there's a problem. There's 11,000 unsold units in the pipeline right now, and a lot of them will get canceled. And I've talked about this before in the past. When these things get canceled, people are going to be afraid of what's happening, and they're afraid whether they invest into these pre-construction, whether they can get their money back because a lot of them aren't fulfilling it. Why would a buyer, let alone a first-time home buyer, want their money tied up in something for a long time and then it gets canceled on them and they get their deposit back with minor interest? The lost opportunity cost is ridiculous. And then on top of all of that, if you're talking about what they're selling for $1,100 a foot. Yes, it's down 7% from a year ago, but if you're going around the corner and you can buy something comparable that just finished in the last year or two for $1,100 a foot, $1,050 a foot, why would you pay a premium for 10% to only have a risk of it not actually building? It just makes no sense. This is why neither one of the parties' plan is going to make any difference.
Think of it this way. With so few people buying new homes, what company would want to build them?
As much as government wants industry to build more homes, industry basically has put the brakes on. Part of that is because of high labor costs, high materials, and higher interest rates, and the economics of building for them just don't make sense anymore.
And the market has not been kind to would-be home buyers in the GTA. Here's what the average home has sold for each year since 1980, and here's the average.
I will note, I think they cherry-picked this 2022 number because it's slightly higher than what it was. If I was looking at this data, I really would have used the 2024 numbers because they clearly have been out already.
Average household income over those same years. See how the gap widens? For a long time, the average home was priced around 3 to 5 years of average income. It has skyrocketed the past decade to nearly 10 years.
So exact same thing here. This is using 2022 stats. If it's 2024, I imagine this amount of years will be a little bit lower. It's still not great because as you can see, basically after the great financial crisis, our prices have been going up. And a lot of that has to do with low interest rates and money printing. I'm not going to get into that. But I don't think any of these conservatives or liberal policies are going to make any kind of impact on this number right here. It's just not going to happen. I hope this gives you an understanding of how some of these policies that may come into place will affect the Toronto real estate market. And honestly, it's not going to make that big of an impact because the immediate impact is how the market is navigating between buyers and sellers. And if you want to understand how that is shaping out right now, make sure to check out the video over here where I give you a scary stat where we haven't seen in the last 30 years where we don't have any sales because the market is frozen. So to understand that fully, check out that video. And until next time, your move, your future. See ya.